This is the part 3 of creating an online snacks ordering system with ASP.NET 5 Razor pages using Visual Studio Code, and we'll be creating a model today in this part. So this part is built on the previous two parts, which will be in the YouTube video description, and it is utmost essential that you go through them because all the parts are built upon the previous part. So let's get back to our Visual Studio Code that we have built so far. Now here we are going to add a model class, which is nothing but a code representation of your application's entities in the application. Now the Snackomania application, or the snacks application you can say in short, is currently concerned with products sold by the Snackomania store. So the model consists of one class product. So even if we are dealing with some cooked items, snacks or desserts, it is still a product. Okay. So now we will add a new folder to the root of the application named models. Okay. A new folder to the root of this project, new folder at the root. So if you need to add a new project, new folder, you just click on the empty space and add folder and then give it a name models. Now this is on the root, and in the models folder, right click to add a new C# class, and this C# class, this menu, right click new C# class or new C# interface or new file. It comes through an extension which you have to install, which is known as C# extensions. Okay, and I will just give this new class a name product. So this will be within my models folder, and models folder is within my snacks razor pages or on the root. Okay, so if you just browse, so D project snacks razor pages models, so this is the under the straight away under the root, that models folder. Now I have to change the code from my clipboard. Now before I uh, paste the clipboard code, let me change this namespace to look like more wildy. And this has become a bit messy. Snacks razor pages is too big, so snacks.models. So I can always change it by hand. Namespace snacks.models, and product will be, this is my product class having these public properties besides ID, in name, description, price is a decimal, and image name. Okay, so we'll be putting the image as we have shown you in the first lecture. Now, most modern web applications use a data access technology that automatically maps tables and columns in a database with an application's model classes and their properties, enabling two-way transfer of data between database and model. These components are known as ORM, or Object Relational Mappers. Full-featured ORMs also generate the SQL commands and execute them against the database, as well as offering other services such as transaction management and migration. The Entity Framework Core, or EF Core in short, is the recommended ORM to use with ASP.NET Core applications. And it includes a number of providers, which are the components that work with specific databases. Many providers are maintained by third parties. The Entity Framework Core team maintains providers for SQL Server and SQLite. Now, the SQLite we are going to use, which is a cross-browser, cross-platform file-based database, which will be used. Now, by default, Entity Framework is not included in the project template, so we will be using a NuGet package, which we will now install. So we'll break the application, we'll stop the application by Control C here. Control C, application is shutting down. And then on this terminal, I will use .NET add package, Microsoft.entityframework core.sqlite. Okay, so it will add this package for Entity Framework Core. So now this package has been added, and how do I check it? You can check it from the project file always. So package reference include Microsoft.entityframework core.sqlite version is also written over here. That's the easiest way to check. Okay. Now, the primary entity framework core component that we shall use to communicate with the database is a class that derives from the DB context class, which is the context. The context represents a session with the database and provides an API for communicating with it, with the database, with some capabilities like database connections and database operations such as querying and persistence, change tracking, model building, data mapping, object caching, and transaction management. So we'll create a folder named data in the root of the project first. So this is again the root of the project. So like I said, we created the models folder in the root of the project. We'll create another folder. So create new folder and name it data. So this data folder is now created. So within this data folder, I'm going to right click and add a new C# class and name this class snacks context. Okay. And I will change the snacks context by highlighting it and pasting it over and then saving. This is my changed modified snacks context class, which derives from the DB context class, which is under Microsoft.Entity Framework Core.db context. This is my derived class. And I have also given a simpler name for the namespace snacks.data. So if I don't give this namespace, and when I create a new class, it will automatically take the default name as the project name, which is snack creature pages dot data. But I wanted to make it simpler, less messier, cleaner. Now this snacks context is the context that we shall use to work with our data, and the context has one property, a dbset named products. Okay, and what is dbset? Dbset can be used to query and save instances of the product. Okay, the dbset class maps to a table in the database, which we are going to create in the next lecture. So this on configuring method, it provides a place for you to configure your context. In this case, you have configured the context to use a SQLite provider, because I have actually added the package SQLite in a previous section of this. So you can again see that it has been successfully installed. Microsoft.Entity Framework.SQLite will be using SQLite for this project. Okay, so when working with the context, the recommended approach in an ASP.NET Core application to register it with the dependency injection system and make it available as a service. So we'll have to open this startup class, the default startup class, and make some changes to make it um, suitable or compliant with our application. So we'll register this service, and then all we need is to use this configure services method, which is called by the runtime. And as Microsoft themselves use this method to add services to the container. So I will be injecting a service to the container, which is services. Let's see, this my IntelliSense still works. Services dot add db context, and what will be the context? I have got just one db context, which is the snacks context. Okay, so if you write snacks context, automatically it is there, and snacks context, and this is semicolon. Okay, so I'll have to save this, Control S. And why it is protesting? It is view the problem, snacks context could not be found. So it is suggesting, okay, I am missing some directive. So I have to now, if you click on this light bulb icon, like in Visual Studio 2019, we are used to using snacks.data. Okay, and that will take care of snacks.data. It's not added. Using snacks.data. Okay, right. So let's see again. Save it And that squiggly line is gone when I close this window with a cross icon on the right. So everything looks all right. So this service is snacks context is registered because it was in the snacks.data namespace dot snack context. Now, if I try to build this application, let's see, view, view terminal, and then .NET, .NET run. Now the build is succeeded, so it is listening on these ports again. So we are not going to show the application, which is now not in a position to show you something great, but we'll come back, and it is good that it is building correctly. So we are on the right track.